I'm Bob Savakinus. Welcome to our program in a nutshell. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Chuck Yarmey. Chuck has been involved in the entertainment industry in northeastern Pennsylvania since he was a teenager. He started off by playing keyboards in a local band, but he hit it big in 1986 when he was one of the founding members of Cinch. And for those of us who remember Cinch, they were very famous for the song, Where Are You Now? It reached the Billboard charts at number 10. They were signed by Columbia Records, but as everything else would happen, eventually the band would break up. And once the band broke up, Chuck ended up going back to his family business, where he's a third-generation carpenter. He took classes in architect design and interior design, and he began to do custom woodworking and interiors. But Hollywood was now going to call for Chuck. The music industry we had, now Hollywood was going to call. Chuck has been a production designer for an independent film called All in Time that was filmed mainly in the Wilkes-Barre area, and it has won 12 awards at various film festivals. He took his passion and his creativity and he began working for a local high school as a technical director and advisor with various thespian troupes, including training and holding workshops and seminars to over 1,000 high school students yearly at the Pennsylvania State Thespian Festival. I want to say this correctly. But he's going to go back to the movie industry again, and from my informal conversation, he has another movie project that he'll be working on this summer, and also he's a beer maker. So that part of it we may have a little more fun talking about as well. But I want to welcome Chuck Yarmey, our guest today, and let's talk about this amazing career that he's had. Chuck, welcome to our program in a nutshell.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for having me.
First of all, I guess let's start off with the big part of Cinch. How many people out there will remember that song, Where Are You Now? Tell us a little bit about what it was like getting involved in a national recording act.
Well, as I'm getting older, I'm finding generation after generation that this was actually 35 years ago that Where You Now was released, and I found that out because it was released by Columbia Records on the same day that Manic Monday by the Bangles was released and Your Love by the Outfield was released. So all three of us, that was Columbia's thing. I had just gotten out of high school, and I was in a band, a local band in high school. We broke up and I started college at Penn State Lehman campus. And I just wanted to get back into music, so I called our old singer. It was over Christmas break. I said, let's get the band back together. And he said, well, I'm in a band right now and we're doing original stuff, but we need a keyboard player. So I went up to to my first rehearsal with them, and I heard the song Where Are You Now, which was an original, and I was in. I thought the song was tremendous, and I wanted to be part of that band. So that spring break from Penn State, we all pulled some money together. We went down to Susquehanna Sound, and we recorded Where Are You Now with a flip side, and we brought it back, and we actually, our singer Jimmy Harnon went to Wilkes along with our guitar player at the time, Dave Abraham. So Wilkes University played Where Are You Now. They were the first ones to play it, and then KRZ picked it up. So that was basically the beginning of how the band started. And at the time, Rocky Glen, and you know this well, was doing concerts on the water. Previous to that, I had gone to see Night Ranger with the good friend of mine from the previous band who got me involved in Cinch. And a year later, Bon Jovi was coming, free concert from KRZ. So our singer Jimmy called KRZ and said, hey, do you have an opening act? Here's our song, we'd like to open for them. And as luck would have it, they said, yeah, great song, you guys could open for Bon Jovi. So that was our very first time playing live in front of a crowd, was opening for Bon Jovi at Rocky Glen. So, from there we continued to work on original materials. The song got a lot of airplay. For the people who were around then, it was one of the most overplayed songs. We heard that from a lot of people, and yes, it was played a lot, which I guess in radio terms is heavy rotation. So every station had heavy rotation. That caught the ear of Columbia Records. So when I was 19, I believe it was, eventually we got signed on to Columbia Records, and this was our 45. We had a flip side called Only for the Night, which is a song that was written by a few of us in the band. I co-wrote that one. The song Where Are You Now was written by the singer Jimmy Harnon and the very first keyboard player, Rich Congdon. Rich wasn't really much for playing out live, so that's why he kind of, handed the reins over to me to play keyboard. So, Columbia Records released, as I mentioned, Where Are You Now, on the same day as those other songs, and it started to climb the charts. We were doing really well with record sales and airplay, getting picked up by many radio stations around the country. We got involved in a little bit of a scandal, let's say. We had a management company in New York City, we had local managers, and there was a little shake-up in the music industry involved in independent record promoters. And they were very common, and they probably still are, I don't know, but in the 80s when this all happened, there was one of the independent record promoters who was involved with promoting our record he went into hiding because of some accusations, and Columbia Records decided that they didn't like us anymore. So that was again, that was when I was 19, and I didn't really understand everything that was going on. I just knew we had a song on the radio, and the odd thing about it was to hear our song on the radio. To me, it was almost like I was just listening to somebody else on the radio. Right. It's like to turn it on and say, "Oh, that's me right there." No, it just never really happened. But because of the scandal, Columbia called us the next day, released us from the contract, and stopped pressing records. So record sales are a big part of climbing the charts. So after that, we continued to work on our own music, going with as many record companies out there, sending them demos, but we continued to play, and we continued to tour. We opened for bands like the Hooters, Steppenwolf, Expose, all 80s bands. We were pretty much living the dream, especially for teenagers, and it was really an amazing experience. So we found someone to finance an EP, and this was many people in the area may own this, and many people might have sold them on eBay by now.
Right.
But and it's funny because there was one on eBay for like $100. And I was thinking, I was impressed. Like that's really interesting. That
And imagine if you signed it, that would increase the value even more than 100.
True. That's the thing. And the person, I started following it just to see how it would do. And the person sent me a message like, "Hey, I'll sell it to you for a couple dollars less." And I was like, "No, that's my album. I'm just curious to see how it's doing." So this was the album, and we put this out. It was an independent release, and this was after we had our makeover. Because we were, I don't want to call us a boy band, but we were an 80s rock band, and we needed a little bit of an image, because before this we just looked like a bunch of people playing basketball out in a court somewhere wearing whatever, bandanas and parachute pants and all that other stuff. So this was our Benetton look, which actually I remember Benetton was up here in Scranton, so we had to come up here to be outfitted for this. So we tried promoting this EP. We did have some sales, and eventually it just kind of petered out that it was harder and harder, and we were told that we weren't really going to get signed by anybody. So what happened on my 21st birthday, I felt I was getting old for some reason, and I just said to the band, I don't know if this is going to work out, and I left the band. And a while after that, everybody went their separate ways. So Jimmy Harnon, our singer, was very determined, always very determined to make it in the business. And a few years later, he re-released the recording, the Columbia recording, under a different label, WTG Records. So it was the exact same recording, same master, re-released. Now it was Jimmy Harnon with Cinch instead of just Cinch, because Cinch was kind of like a bad word, but if you put Jimmy Harnon with Cinch, that's okay. That made it to number 10 in the Billboard Hot 100. I believe it made it even higher in the adult contemporary charts. It was on an episode of General Hospital. It's actually funny. It's a very big song in the Philippines. If you go on YouTube, you'll see so many Philippine bands doing tributes to Where Are You Now, and it's great to see them all because it's like, how did they get that song down there that they love it so much? But it's a catchy song. It's you know, and to this day, it's like an earworm. You know, you hear it and it's just reminds you of that era. So yeah, Jimmy re-released that. He also had an album of his own original music in conjunction with that. So you know, that's how I kind of walked away from the music business after all of that and just, you know, dabbled around at home, playing once in a while. But that was my music career part.
Okay. It's a fascinating career, and I want to go back just couple of questions. So you're playing at Rocky Glen, and you're a teenager, and you're opening up for Bon Jovi, and tell us the experience, like several thousand people out there. I mean, what did it feel like being that teenager, opening up for Bon Jovi, and you're down at Rocky Glen in front of this massive crowd playing?
That was the thing that was weird for me, and I don't know if I'm unique to this feeling, but I always looked at it when we played as a job, like that was my job. I was up there playing. So as I appreciated it, and it was very overwhelming, and we played. Penn State used to, I don't know if they still do, they used to have a spring regatta, and it was out in the middle of a farmer's field, and there was like a couple 100,000 people there, and we played there, and I have pictures of us from behind and just the sea of people out there. Mm-hmm. So it never really, I took it in. I think I was too young to really appreciate everything, because again, to me it was like it was our job. Just like when we were there backstage with Bon Jovi, it wasn't like, oh, you guys, Bon Jovi is really cool. And you know, back then we didn't have cameras in our phones, so you had like a disposable camera, a disc camera or something. And I never really carried a camera around with me. So like I didn't get a lot of pictures of all that stuff. But you know, I never really like asked for autographs or anything like that, because it's like we're working, you know. Right. We're opening for you guys, you're working, we're working. You know, it was neat, and especially like I said with the Hooters and Starstruck with Steppenwolf, all those bands, it was always just a mutual thing that we were all working and we were there to do our job. Mm-hmm. I appreciated it. I loved seeing the crowds, and it was definitely a surreal experience. We had one experience at I think it's Skateaway in Wilkes-Barre. And again, I wish we had cell phone cameras at the time, because it was almost like a Beatles type experience. WILK gave away free tickets for Cinch at this roller rink, and it was just packed wall to wall with people. They had to get us in through a side entrance and put bodyguards around us to drag us through the crowd to get us into the booth where the guy played the music for everybody to skate. And like we were getting pulled down and everything, and it was really an amazing experience. So you know, I did have some great memories from it. So it was something that I have to say, when everything happened and we went our separate ways, it was kind of odd, because it was like sometimes I would think to myself, I would almost have not made it than to have made it and had it taken away. Because if you never experienced it, you'd never really know what you're missing. You know, it's like when I go to a concert or something, you know, I sit there and I think, I'm like a fine hair away from being able to walk up backstage and get on that stage and play, because I've been there before. You know, so it's a little bit of a weird feeling, having been there and then having it taken away.
Well, congratulations on what you did accomplish, though, because I mean, for us in northeastern Pennsylvania, I mean, it was a legendary band with a legendary song and had some great appearances and everything. Gold record. I know we mentioned that a little bit earlier. Tell us a little bit about what the gold record is.
The gold record is actually it's on the wall. It's at home. Okay. It's the WTG release, and that was I'm drawing a blank on the number of sales for a gold. I think 500,000 maybe. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there is a gold record hanging on the wall above my piano, along with some of my other artifacts from the band. It's
something to be very proud of, though. I mean, there's not many people in northeastern Pennsylvania that we could say had this gold record. That's a part of what they accomplished in their career.
Mentors of ours from northeast Pennsylvania were the guys that were in the band The Boys, Bill Kelly and the late Jerry Ludzik, and eventually Dakota, where they added the late Rick Manwiller. Those three people produced our EP. and they were very big influences on us. And the boys had Timothy, which I think peaked at number 13 in the Hot 100, and so they were very influential in our music and in how we played. Just they were perfectionists, and you could hear it in our music. Like everything had to be exact, because like they always said, you could rewind a little bit. If you make a mistake, somebody could just listen to that a million times. So everything has to be perfect on here. So they definitely influenced us, so coming from the area, and oddly enough, Bill Kelly attended Wyoming area, and so did I. So two of the biggest chart songs to come out of this area was from Wyoming area, and that's where I ended up with my drama thing. So.
All right. Well, speaking of drama, you mentioned that. Let's move into that topic a little bit then. So you've been working on plays locally with our high school students,
Yes.
and you have one coming up now. So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell us about your preparation for Chicago.
Chicago. I always loved Chicago. It's very exclusive rights. Years ago, I tried to apply for it, and the tour was performing at the Scranton Cultural Center, I believe. So I was turned down, and I wrote an email like, yeah, but we're just a high school, and blah blah blah, and they were like, nope, sorry. And every time I applied, I got turned down. So 2 years ago, I finally got the approval to have Chicago, which was terrific. My director, Kate, and I were thrilled. We instantly started planning. We wanted to make it a little bit different than the normal productions of Chicago. We had the set pretty much 90% built, and then COVID happened. So it's been sitting on the stage at Wyoming area since then. Thankfully, the administration never had me take it down, and we never knew what was going to happen and how long this was going to last. And I tried to keep the students upbeat, like maybe we'll only be off for a month, and we could continue where we left off. So I feel bad that the seniors who were cast last year never got an opportunity to perform in it, because they were an integral part of me wanting to do Chicago, because I knew they would be perfect in the roles. Some of them actually came back this year to help us with this year's casts, because we had to recast the whole show.
Just talking about this year's, tell us, for our audience, the details. Like, when is the show going to be playing? Where at?
Okay.
Tickets? How do you get tickets?
We are going to be... we're going to be able to have a live audience for this. It's going to be a small audience based on the numbers, the capacity of the auditorium, but each night we're going to be allowed to have 275 people in person. We are going to begin on May 20th, and it's going to be the 20th, 21st, 22nd at 7 p.m. at Wyoming Area High School at the auditorium, and it's going to be the 23rd, which is a Sunday, at 2 p.m., and that'll be our final show for that. As for getting tickets, we're still working on the logistics of this, because obviously seating, we're following the whole 6-foot thing, and we want to keep everyone feeling safe. Thankfully, it's a giant auditorium. It has a capacity of over 1,100 people, so we'll be able to spread people out. There's alcoves, there's balconies, there's no bad seats. But Wyoming Area Drama Club on Facebook, we have a page there, and I'm working on trying to get something with a little bit more real-time information for people who are interested in purchasing tickets ahead of time for that. But we're thrilled that our performers are going to be able to get up on stage and actually have an audience in front of them again, and start bringing theater back to live theater back to Wyoming Valley.
And the cost of it will support the students and continuing this program.
The cost of our tickets, it's the best bargain in the world. Right now our tickets are $10. So for a musical, $10 is really good. And when you see the productions that we put on, we go way overboard in the sense that being in the production design thing with movies and with theater now, I can't really just put out something like, that's good enough. No matter what I do, I always want it to be over the top. I want it to be just as good a quality as we could possibly get. And I have a great group of parents who help me build the sets, and my creative director, Kate, and I sit down for countless hours, and we discuss all of the details, what we're going to do with this. And again, they're always impressive shows. So the money from the ticket sales pay for the licensing, pay for everything we do. It's unfunded because we're a club. We're a drama club. There is no funding for this at the school other than to pay the advisors. So we always hope our ticket sales make up for everything we spent. We hedge our bets, basically.
I mean, basically, you're supporting our kids and encouraging them to be creative and to perform in the performing arts field and everything.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing too. I've had students who have left, who have gone on to college in both the tech aspect and in the performance aspect. And my daughter's the one that got me into it because when she was a sophomore, she got the lead in The Diary of Anne Frank. Mm-hmm. So my wife, I had just finished on the movie All in Time previous to that, and my wife said, "Oh, why don't you go help them build sets since you already build sets on a movie?" So I said, "Okay." So I went to the school and I helped with that one, and they asked me to come back for the next show, and I helped with that one, and then eventually the school hired me as the assistant advisor, and eventually the school hired me as the advisor, and I've been there, and my daughter graduated years ago, 4 years ago. She went off to New York and she went to school for theater. So she's living in New York now, and I'm here doing the local stuff. So
I've seen some of the clips of some of your past performances, Mamma Mia. I believe it was The Addams Family as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a great track record on the great shows that you've put on in the past. So
Yeah.
it's something to look forward to than to be able to come out and see Chicago and everything. So again, I'll encourage our viewers to come out and support our high school students in local theater and get a chance to see Chicago at Wyoming Areas Theater. And you talked about All in Time a little bit. So now we have a Hollywood calling you. The music industry called you for a little bit. Then you moved on to Hollywood. Tell us a little bit about this movie, All in Time. I had a chance to watch it a couple of weeks ago, and it was nice to see northeastern Pennsylvania focused and highlighted so well, especially the Wilkes-Barre area in this case, in this movie. Tell us a little bit about the movie itself, your experiences and everything with it.
So All in Time was another one of those things that just it happened, and I always tell my own children this, and I tell my students this, just about taking chances and opportunities. I found out about All in Time while I was listening to a local radio talk show, and I was in my wood shop working on a project for someone. And she was interviewing one of the directors of the film, Chris Fetchko. And he was talking about how this movie is going to be about music, and he wants to make it as realistic as possible because, you'll see a movie and somebody will have a microphone and there'll be no cable run and all this other stuff. So in listening to him, it sounded really interesting. So I reached out to him. And that's the thing. Like a lot of times you would say, "Oh, I'd like to work on that movie," and you let it go. But I reached out to him, and I sent him an email, and I explained who I was and my involvement with Cinch, and I said I've been involved with music in the area, and I'd love an opportunity just to look and maybe even be like a consultant and say, "Hey, that guitar is upside down," or something like that, and let's talk about this. So Chris and I met for coffee. Then when he found out about my design and woodworking, he asked me to come on board with the art department. So I had never really worked on movies, but it sounded interesting and it sounded like something I was capable of. And it's one of those things that I never really thought about doing because it's not something we learn about in school. We don't learn about these available positions doing movies and films, and working on theater sets in Broadway and stuff like that. We never really talk about this, so I never thought about it. And after reading the script, I loved it. I loved the movie. I loved the story. And we filmed it in Wilkes-Barre and in Lancaster. And the reason we filmed it in Wilkes-Barre was because the film takes place in the 90s, so it seemed to fit really well in Wilkes-Barre. But it was a great experience. A lot of very talented people from all over the industry. Our director of photography was Dave Dunlap, who is an Emmy-nominated DP for House of Cards. So I worked with some amazing people. And from that got me to really love movie making. And I wish I started when I was younger. So for now, I do the drama club thing, but whenever there's an opportunity for a local movie that I'll be available for, I try to get involved also with that.
Okay. So you have that under your belt, All in Time, a DVD released movie and everything. What's the future? Do you have another movie project you might be working on?
There's a few.
Okay.
There's one that's definitely happening this late summer, early fall. and that presents a challenge with me with school. But as a production designer, I get to work on a lot of this stuff ahead of time with the script. And the interesting thing about this movie is it's local people, and it was written by a local person who now lives in New York City, and Mike Rakowski, and a local director named John Yankondi. Last year they had a film, Baby Frankenstein, and I believe that is on Amazon Prime right now, that I didn't get a chance to work on because they were shooting during one of my fall shows, but I was involved a little bit in discussions of that. But this new one, oddly enough, also has some music involved, which is really in my wheelhouse, and that's what I'm really excited about this one. And there will be probably some local music from days gone by in this movie, and it's already a special place in my heart with this movie before we even started, because there's a lot of people that I was good friends with years ago that might be involved in the production too. So that will be, like I said, filming the end of summer and early fall. But you know, as there's more to release to talk about that, we will. But we're in the pre-production stage right now. Our director of photography for this is going to be J.B. Earl, and I worked with him a few years ago. Again, a great bunch of people, and I just really enjoy working on movies. It's exhausting. You put in an incredible amount of days. When we were doing All in Time, I had my daughter with me for a few days just to give her the experience. And the one day, it was like a 21-hour shoot. And as we were driving back to the hotel, the sun was coming up and birds were chirping, and she was like angry because it was like, you know, it was already day, it was the next day. But it's fun. There's an adrenaline factor in there, you know, when you're working on the movie, and to see the final product. You know, I love the way All in Time came out. That's also available on Amazon Prime to watch for free. I'm really excited to start working on this next movie. I think it's going to be a great one.
I've noticed a trend, though. It seems like you love to work with young adults and students on helping them get their creativity flowing and everything. In just your intro, I read that, you know, up to 1,000 students per summer you work with for the Thespian Society and everything. I mean, what motivates you the most to want to say, I want to make our future entertainers, if you want to call it that, become successful from northeastern Pennsylvania?
I think it comes from when I was trying, because I always thought it was weird that, like, entertainment's like the only industry where you practically have to beg people to you know, let them be entertained by you, and it's just weird, you know, and especially with bands and music and stuff. So whenever I run into people who are creative or who are interested in any of this, I just try to give them support, because it is a viable option. And I think that's the thing. And I mentioned doing workshops. Every year the Pennsylvania State Thespian Society has a state conference, and it's all thespian troupes from all over the state that converge for 3-4 days. So I'll do workshops. Maybe one year I'll do a workshop on design, like how to read through a script and do a design, or I'll do workshops on easy ways to make different things like fake snow and fake brick and all that other stuff, you know, just to show them. But there's been so many students who have come up to me after the workshops, and they're like, you know, I'm really interested in doing stage makeup or theater makeup or special effects makeup, and my parents really don't want me to do it. Is there any colleges you might recommend? Things like that. And to me, that's like really, you know, that's the important thing. And no, I'm not their parent, but I'm going to give them the option that there are things out there that they could do, and encourage them to do that, because just there are so many things you could do. And I tell my students this at Westside, because it is a carpentry program, and I tell them that carpentry is not just about repairing somebody's door or remodeling some person's bathroom. It's much more than that, because you could be a stagehand on Broadway, and you could make a couple $1,000s a week to start, because somebody has to build the sets. Right. You could go to Hollywood. You could go to Georgia and work on movie sets right now, again, because carpenters build those sets. And I kind of wish I knew about that stuff when I was, you know, young, when I was still a teenager, because I definitely think the creativity and my skills matched together, I think, is something that I could have got a lot more films under my belt. So I'm trying to get as many as I can now. Another thing I tell them too, and a friend of mine is an Imagineer at Disney. Imagineers, they're carpenters. Their workshop is, bigger than a couple of our schools put together, just for them to build stuff. And every day you're building something different at Disney. So I could just imagine, they just did the Star Wars theme park. So those Imagineers built that. Like, it's just such an opportunity. And again, people don't think about that stuff. It's like somebody special must be doing that. No, it's people with these same skills that you're learning now. So, sky's the limit. You can go do whatever you want. So that's what I try to basically convey to all of them.
Well, Chuck, you have such an amazing career and everything. We didn't even get to talking about your beer making skills. We didn't get to being a third generation carpenter and woodworker, being an educator, teacher at Westside Career Technical Center School. So many things. We may have to have you come back for a second appearance down the road. But I do want to encourage our viewers to come out there and have a chance to check out Chicago, done by a local high school. And again, your track record has shown what a great job you've done in the past with these performances and plays with the students. So, come on out to have a chance to see these students do a great job and everything. But I want to thank you for being our guest today, and thank you for all that you've done in our community to bring the performing arts to a higher level and showcasing Northeastern Pennsylvania on that national level, whether it's playing in the band with Cinch and national recording artist, All in Time, the movie, and another future movie project down the road and everything. So thank you for all that you've done in helping the creativity in Northeastern Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
I'm Bob Savakinus, and thank you for tuning in to our program in a nutshell.